The abolishment of slavery. Slavery was not always popular. It was developed over the years as the British made more journeys to Africa. Some countries in Africa were very successful. Some examples are Mali, Songhai, Ghana, and Benin. From the 13th to the 15th centuries, the Kingdom of Mali spread across much of West and Northeast Africa. At its largest, the kingdom was 200 kilometers wide, and there was organized trade with gold dust and agricultural produce being exported north. Mali reached its peak in the 14th century. Cowrie shells were used as a form of currency, and gold, salt, and copper were traded. Between 1450 and 1550, the Songhai kingdom grew very powerful and prosperous. It had a well-organized system of government, the kingdom imported fabrics from Europe, and it had a development currency. Timbuktu became one of the most important places in the world. Libraries and universities were built, and it became the meeting place for poets, scholars, and artists from other parts of Africa and the Middle East. In the west of Africa, the Kingdom of Ghana was a vast empire that spread across an area the size of Western Europe. Between the 9th and 13th centuries, it traded in gold, salt, and copper. It was like a medieval European empire, with a collection of powerful local rulers controlled by one king or emperor. Ghana was highly advanced and prosperous. It is said that the Ghanaian ruler had an army of 200,000 men. The kingdom of Benin and Ife were led by the Yoruba people and sprang up between the 11th and 12th centuries. Studies of the Benin kingdom show that the people were highly skilled in ivory carving, pottery, rope, and gum production. West Africa varies in its climate and vegetation. In the north is the Sahara Desert. In the south, near the coast, the rainfall is much higher, and there are great areas of rainforest. In the 17th century, the two areas had different ways of organizing themselves, and different economies, cultures, and religions. In the north, the low rainfall made growing crops away from the river difficult. In the south, the hot climate and high rainfall meant that 2 or even 3 crops of rice could be grown each year. However, the heat and humidity caused cattle to be killed by diseases spread by the tsetse fly. Other crops grown include types of corn, millet, and yams. Hunting, gathering fruit, and fishing added to the West African diet. Most people lived in villages in the south, although there were towns like Timbuktu and Diene in the north. In the villages, families would live in a fenced compound with separate wooden thatched huts for the husband, wives, grandparents, and sons. These huts rarely had proper doors. Europeans were amazed at how little stealing was done by Africans. The fences were to keep their animals, poultry and pigs, in. The villages were run by elders, the oldest men in the village, or by the tribal chief or king. These people would make and enforce the local laws and make decisions about the crops. In the towns, most houses were made from mud bricks, with families living in single houses. In the north, there were bigger kingdoms, such as Mali and Bornu, which often divided into regions, each with their own governors, judges, tax collectors, and market inspectors. In the north, most of the Africans were Muslims, and there were big mosques in the towns. Muslim religious teaching meant that there were many schools in the area. In the south, however, most of the people believed in good and evil spirits and used charms and offerings, or worshipped their local god or the spirits of their ancestors. In the south, there were no written languages in schools until Christian and Muslim missionaries came into the area. The West Africans were very skilled potters, making better pottery than the Europeans at the time. They also carved wood, made jewelry, and were good at weaving cloth. They sang and danced, their favorite instrument being drums, dulcimers, koras, a sort of harp, and a sort of guitar. Amongst them, they traded in foodstuffs, hardware, cloth, and basketwork. In the north, they used copper or gold coins as well as swapping, bartering, goods. In the south, there was little metal for money until the Europeans came, so they used cowrie shells.